What's up, everybody? It's your boy, MrTMoney1993, and back with the Straight Facts podcast. Here with my boy Tony from Cat Chronicles, and
What's
Kevin,
up, my man?
aka Panthers Huddle.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
And what can I say? We actually can talk about a win since what, October?
Yeah, man. It's been a long time coming.
41-10, man. It felt
2 months.
good.
It was December 5th. I mean,
You said-
December 5th to October 5th. 2 months exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. And one thing that's really worth talking about is going into this season, it was never a question on whether or not the Saints could win at home. It was always a question, whether or not they could win on the road. So, I mean, for the Carolina Panthers, the struggles that we've had so far this season, for us to be able to come into their house and do what we did and pretty much just take control of the entire game, control the tempo and everything like that, I mean, that's a huge testament. That shows that this team does have what it takes to stand toe-to-toe with really anybody.
Yeah, and I was rooting for a win. Tony knew I was kind of struggling too, but I still tried to tell him we had a chance. But and nowhere close it, I think we will blow them out. It's 41-10, and it really could have been more. We really could have dropped 50 on them. I feel like, because Kelvin dropped that 80-yard bomb. I mean, we had some chances where we could have put even more points up. And Cam was sitting by what, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Your boy Kelvin Benjamin Butters dropped 2 big passes. Could have dang had a touchdown on one, and I mean, like, they were like 40-yard bombs too. So you're right. It should have been that field goal that we settled for. Should have been a touchdown. You could go ahead and add 4 more points for that, and then add another one with that drive getting stalled out when Benjamin dropped the pass, and then had a personal foul all on the same run. So that first half, you're right, you could have put up 45 points almost.
Yeah, I think we could have dropped a 50-piece on it. But did anybody else notice we dropped 41, like Roman Harper, who we got for the Saints, and comes to the Panthers and dropped his jersey number on their team?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I noticed something else too. After the game, all the defensive players seemed to talk more about the offense than they did their own defense. They talked more about execution of the offense, not going 3 and out, and sustaining drives and things like that. So I think there's something that we could probably read into that. Imagine how hard it is to play 4 quarters, and constantly being out on the field, trying to put your team in a position to win, and then you just watch the offense just completely stall out. So I think the defense is probably more happy and more satisfied to see the offense being successful than the offense was.
Yeah, because the defense, for the most part, actually has been playing better since probably around the Seattle game. They've been playing, in my opinion, well enough to win for the most part. Besides maybe, was the Eagles game after that? I think so. Besides that, but I think they've been playing well enough to win. It's been the offense, or then the Vikings game, special teams, that's been setting us back and keeping us out the game, which special teams still struggle. Our punt return coverage is horrible. I know Jalen Sanders is fast. He runs like a 4.3, 4.2, but that's no excuse. And I don't know if y'all saw. Did y'all see Jason Williams sign with the Bucks?
Yep.
So we're gonna have to play him. I don't think he'll start, so I don't know how much of a difference he'll make. But it'll be pretty crazy if he blocks a putt or something like that.
Speaking of the Bucks, though, I know a lot of people were excited about being able to go up against the Bucks, but I still say anytime you got a division opponent, especially at the end of the season like this, and you got the Bucks, their season's done. Everybody knows their season is done. So I wouldn't. They're definitely going to be trying to play spoiler. So I mean, they're definitely still a dangerous team, right now. So
really, the only person that's worrying me on that team is Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a bad dude. He had 2 more touchdowns last week. It's got him up to 10, I think, this season. Other than that, I feel like Josh McClown is going to give us the ball at least 2 to 3 times. That's pretty much what he does. And Gerald McCoy got hurt their last game, so that's something that could help us. And Levante David got hurt again. He ended up with a concussion during their last game, so I'm not that worried. But like I said, one thing I am worried about is Mike Evans. Other than that, we got the game in the bag, in my opinion. How you feel about it, Tony?
All right, so first I want to give you an update on the Atlanta game. It is 24-7 Green Bay.
Yeah,
Matt Ryan threw a pick six, or it looked like, so, or at some point. So, all right, so this is what I think is that a couple of things. I think you're right about our defense really needing our offense to show up in New Orleans. Is that, well, our whole team needed the offense to show up because really that has been where the main problem has been. Yes, it's been bad on defense, but like you said, they played well enough to where they made some good plays and gotten off the field, and then the offense hasn't done anything, and then it just puts them on the field so often that they're not good enough to be out there more than they should be. So they really do need an offense every now and then. That's not going to bail them out, but that's not always going to put them in a pinch. The thing about the Tampa Bay Bucks is that they suck. And we suck, though, as well until this past week. So you're right. The Bucks, you know, they're always a team. They're going to be trying whatever they can to win, just like we were this week in New Orleans. But Gerald McCoy, hurt knee, played with a dislocated knee, I heard, as well as Doug Martin is non-existent, and
Doug Martin has been Doug Martin since his rookie year,
and he wasn't even that good then. I was a Tampa Bay fan noted this to me once, is that a lot of his points came in just a couple of games that year, or you know, like those big numbers. So it wasn't like yeah, like he had like a 70-point, like a 50-point fantasy week one week. And, you know, so he put up some really big numbers in a couple of games, which made his numbers look a little more even throughout the season. But they even got a play wrong when at the turn of the quarter. Like, they didn't know what was going on, and they just had a timeout. So the team is not only not very good, but then they're not really good at playing football together. So... But the Carolina Panthers have to show up, you know. I mean, is that we've been saying you can take your destiny into your own hands and this and that for weeks, and
we're now back in that same situation where I know
it's frustrating,
and I say we're gonna win however many straight. We're going to the playoffs. I can't do it right now. I feel like
one thing that really bothered me going into this season is that the fans we already knew that we were going to be in big trouble when it came to the offensive line. And when it came to our wide receiver position and everything else, I mean, we knew we were going to be in big trouble in that circumstance. But I think one of the things that kind of got overlooked is the fact that the Carolina Panthers, our roots are really deep set into the run game. We really are a run-first type of team. Well, we like to run the football a lot, wait for you to bring your defenders up, and then we like to go, you know, air raid, play action, and things like that. We basically dare you to bring your defenders up to stop our run game. One thing that really bothered me going into this season was the fact that it was somehow believed that we didn't need a receiving core because we were a run-heavy team. But the problem with that is, how are you going to be a run-heavy team if you don't have a really strong run-blocking offensive line? And I think the offensive line has been one of our biggest problems, especially being that we haven't had any consistency there. There's been a revolving door on the O-line. I think this is the first time that we really got to see our offensive line really come together and see what Cam Newton is capable of behind something like that.
Yeah, well, me personally, offensive line-wise, to me, with Byron Bell, he's never going to be the best. But for me, I feel like it's the matchup sometimes. If he has a big, stronger kind of dude who's going to try to bull rush him, he can handle that. You know, he's, 325, 350, 315. Yeah, he big pretty much. But if he's going against like a 3-4 defense, like I knew walking into that Packers game, looking on the schedule, I said, oh, Clay Matthews and J. Pep is going to eat. Because he struggles with fast guys. Like, you can run around him pretty easily. Now, as far as
especially guys that he goes up against that have a lot of weapons in their toolbox, have a lot of tools in their toolbox, different moves they can use. He does struggle with that. The bull rush he can handle. I agree with you on that one.
As far as receiver, I mean, it was some moves that I thought Taquan Underwood was gonna work out. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought he was gonna work out. Even though he struggled with the hands, I mean, we had that with Tay again. He's really fast, so I thought that was gonna work out. What's up, boy, that we got from the Broncos? Tavares King. I still liked him.
Yeah, me too. The former Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah. So that's two guys that I thought was going to work out that we had before this year started that's not here now. As far as McNutt, I knew that he was going to suck. I told everybody that even before preseason started. But, yeah, I still haven't fell into – I think Tony's still at that point. The Burson man crush, I'm still not there yet.
Yeah, I'm not feeling Goldilocks, man. I don't have any faith, any confidence in Goldilocks at all.
I never thought he was going to
receiver.
Not as a returner, not as a receiver. I would hope that maybe he can go back to the practice squad. Maybe he'll get better. Maybe with some progression and things like that, more training. But I would really like to see the Carolina Panthers building an offense.
He went to Charlotte Latin first of all, which Charlotte Latin is not that big. It's not that mainstream of a school. It's not like he came from Independence or Butler or one of them schools like that.
He went to Wharton or wherever.
He went to Wofford in college. I'm talking about high school ball.
Oh, okay.
He played at Charlotte Latin, which is like one of those private Christian schools. So I wasn't thinking of him that much coming from that, and then he went to Wofford, however you say it, where they don't pass the ball at all. They run 40, 50, 60 times a game. I think he never had 1,000 yards. Like a good game for him was like maybe 3-4 catches. They're one of those teams that's like a heavy running team, sort of like a Georgia Tech style. They're not going to pass.
He hasn't played bad for when he's played receiver, but here's the thing.
He had some drops.
It wasn't going to work because we asked him, who was really like a Rudy type story, and to come onto a football team and make a difference. See, that's the thing, is those guys do well. That type of dude does well on a team that has other players that really are the anchors, and they every now and then get a ball and then they maybe turn into like an Edelman type guy. You know what I'm saying? If you bring those guys in to be a big part or to play like an important role weekly early on, it ain't ever going to work out. So, and he's not fast. You know what I'm saying? None of that works, and that's what we probably should. Another thing that's really changed about this team is last year with Ted Ginn Jr., we really had a good special teams, and this year our special teams have been the worst in the league. And that's what it comes down to, is that we're 32nd right now in special team and punt coverage, and we don't ever get any yards on a punt. When they punt, you ever see us?
Like, even Nortman's kicks don't look right anymore to me.
No, he used to be booting it, felt like 70 yards last year.
Even at the beginning of this year, I don't know what happened. Because remember, we had the whole thing where I tweeted about how far Nortman's kick was that year.
So that's really been a struggle for this team. But it was nice to see the offensive line get back on track, or not back on track, on track. And Byron Bell was the worst out of the guys out there. A lot of people have been talking about Mike Remmers playing well, who is kind of a guy that we got obviously late. A lot of people like the Norwell dude. So these two guys they think are going to stick around on the team for next year. Another thing I like to see, so with Trey Turner, maybe you get another offensive lineman, and there's something to be said there.
Yeah, that's why I'm not really on some people saying go back-to-back tackles. I don't think we should. I want a left tackle, yes, and I feel like we can either sign a right tackle or get one later in the draft. I don't want to go. Because, again, that's one pick that you've taken away from your team. Like when we went defensive tackle back-to-back. One of those guys could have been a weapon that could have been growing with Cam, and then now you added Kelvin Benjamin. Now you building a receiving core. Um,
I think also another thing to go ahead and say is that we like to think that when you get a guy out of the NFL draft and they're a high, like you feel like you get something special in the first round. You want them to contribute in the first year, but they're never as powerful of a force or as helpful as you think they're going to be at first because you haven't come to reality. So what I think is this, is you get a high level what plays left tackle in college right now, and you can go ahead and count on starting him at right tackle for a year or two to get
who's gonna start on the left? You gonna let Bell start another year?
You're gonna have to find somebody in free agency that way that can play that temporarily. I think. Think about this. Look at Jake Matthews. Look at Jake.
Would you rather have a learning, growing left tackle that I can say, hey, he's giving up this sack because he's learning on the job as we go, or Byron Bell, who's been in the league how many years? And he still ain't got it together all the time.
Well, I would hope you could get somebody that was better than Byron Bell. But, I mean, think about this, is that, I mean, I guess you can move Byron Bell back to the right side, but then what happens to Mike Rimmers? What do you do with him?
Is Rimmers under contract for more than this year?
I don't know. Probably not. He probably has a one-year deal. You probably just sign him to the team rotation. Maybe you work him and Bell in on right tackle. But Jake Matthews has struggled a lot this year, and he was a top 5 pick. Left tackle.
Would you rather have Jake Matthews over Byron Bell?
Yes, but what I'm saying is, don't expect it.
But
to just make a huge.
In the Falcons' defense, keeping it 100, Matthews wasn't supposed to start. Remember, they had Sam Baker, but then Sam Baker tore whatever it was, and now he's on the IR. So their plan was originally to keep Jake Matthews on the right side for at least a year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He just has to play the left because of injury.
Or maybe he would have even played guard for a little while or something.
Nah, he was at right tackle.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the win. Like, how did you feel getting that win? You said earlier that you felt you're a little reserved, as in you want to get excited, but you always get overexcited. How excited were you on Sunday to see that? I was like fist pumping excited in my house.
Yeah, the way we won was great. Like I said, 41-10. You don't expect that. Not even in the definitely not in the Superdome. Even if we beat them at 41-10 in BOA, I would be surprised. So yeah, I was super excited. I was super like, yeah, we're going to the playoffs. Da, da, da. And I was like, we haven't won in how many months? Let me bring it on back down.
But we saw some good things. I mean, we saw 2 things that we really haven't seen all season long.
A run game and an offensive line.
Yeah, and Jonathan Stewart
is a bad man. I've been saying let's start him for how many weeks now?
All right. Did you hear the press conference today?
Nah.
All right, so Ron Rivera was in the press conference, and they asked him today, the question was, and I'm going to have it on tomorrow's show on the C3 podcast, the question was, why the hesitancy so far to name Jonathan Stewart the starter? And he just said, my preference.
My preference, 155 yards.
So what he was saying is my preference is that he's preferred D'Angelo Williams in that role rather than necessarily he earning it.
Now, I'm not going to lie. In past years, yes, that's what I would have done. Like, old Mattins, I always started D. Will and had Jay Stu in as a third down back. But at this point right now, I mean, D. Will, he's been beat up this year. He hasn't been getting it done.
He's fumbled again.
Yeah, I think his whole concern is, at any time Jay Stu take one of them hits, he's done.
I thought he was going to get hurt on that 70-yard run. I thought he was going to come up with a hamstring pull.
Not that. Anytime anybody hits him low, I'm scared. Which you gotta hit him low because he's so big and like Tolbert said, he's Tolbert size but 2 times faster.
All right, we got your boy Alan Martin in. What's up, my man?
it took me a while to figure this thing, but thanks again for sending me the invite. But I really appreciate it. I got in last time by a good man over here on the very end on the left, but I got back in. But my opinion on this, Stewart, he is a good running back when he's healthy. He can get the job done. I think D. Will is done because he's getting old. He's in his 30s now. And I really think that they should really think about getting Whitner there. If Stewart gets hurt or he needs to take a break, they need to put Whitner in there more. Whitner has shown that he can get the job done like Stewart and D. Will can. He has shown he's
a bad boy too.
My opinion,
Waka, Fozzie Bear.
I think one thing that we really have an advantage right now is that we have Jim Skipper back. You know, Jim Skipper, you know, has got a pretty good resume of running backs, 1,000-yard running backs, you know, and I know he's well respected among the league, and you know, with Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. So I mean, I really think Fozzie Whitaker is going to have a pretty good mentor there. And from what I've seen from Fozzie Whitaker, the way he runs, his ball control, you know, his vision, I really think that he's got a shot to really be a premier back in the Panthers stable. I'd really be interested to see what he's going to do moving forward.
Yeah. A little update for everybody who's watching and everybody in here. The Packers just scored again with 24 seconds left in the half. Aaron Rodgers threw a touchdown pass to Jordy Nelson. So they're now up 31-7 with 24 seconds left in the first half.
All right, so what is that? All right, we all know. I mean, more than likely they're going to win this game. What does that make us, a half game behind?
Yeah, we're a half game behind the Saints and Falcons. But eventually we have to pass the Falcons because they're 4-0 in the division right now. And they only got, us and Saints left? But here's an update from as far as the Twitter goes. Panthers drafter, what's his first name's Aaron, ain't it?
Yeah.
He said he is on the Philly Brown train. I'm there too. I'm with you. And he said don't sleep on Fozzie Whitaker, which I agree. And he wanted us to talk about the fight and how that affected the game. And I think that fight, anytime we've gotten in a fight this year, it changes the whole game. That Atlanta game, when we got into that whole tussling and slamming people and stuff, we just started suddenly playing better. And last game, we already had the lead. We was up, 17-0 at that time. But I think that just kept the momentum going. I think our defense plays off of that kind of stuff. Like, I actually saw Jordan Gross was actually talking about Luke Kuechly actually was talking junk, which I thought I'd never see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers really do play better when they play with that chip on their shoulder. I think that's something that we lost with Steve Smith. You know, as a Panther fan, I was a Panther fan before Steve Smith. I'm going to be a Panther fan after Steve Smith. But I do have to think, you know, losing that mentality that Steve Smith really brought to the team, I really do think that has been an effect. I don't think.
But it's not, to me, it's not just Smith. We had that balance kind of everywhere. We had Mike Mitchell doing that in the secondary with that kill him, less we getting everybody mentality. Thomas Davis in the linebacking core, and then Smitty on the offensive side of the ball.
And don't forget no spoon Greg Hardy. You know, he played.
All right, so the fight was. What about the karate chop, dude? What'd you guys think about the karate chop?
I found it funny. It was Cam's way of doing something but not doing something at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was kind of edgy. Like, I thought it was like a way of hitting without looking like you're trying to punch somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was kind of like a get your hands off of me kind of move.
I mean, speaking about the hitting, you know, that's one thing I do kind of regret about the fight is because I'm actually a really big believer in Brandon Williams. You know, the tight end, that big tight end we got. Cam calls him Swole Bones. I really felt like this would have been an opportunity for him to really put something out there to prove that, you know, he's got more of a spot on the roster than what he has. So I was kind of upset to see him get ejected from the game. How do you guys feel about Brandon Williams? Next to Greg Olsen going forward in the future. How do y'all feel about that?
As long as he keeps on improving in his technique and route running, his run blocking is on point from what I see from him. My whole thing is, why has he not passed Ed Dixon on the depth chart yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. I don't know if it's because of just raw talent, but I mean, if watching him in the preseason, I mean, he's a big boy, but he's also got a lot of speed, and he's actually got some pretty good hands. He had a couple of pretty good catches in the last couple of years in the preseason. So, but I think maybe Rivera and Gettleman are just really firm believers in that veteran talent, and maybe that's why he just hasn't been passed.
Which could explain the whole why he still wants to feel like he's starting D. Will at the same time as well.
Exactly.
I honestly think I'm gonna give it to you because we know Greg Olsen. He's starting to get into that 30 age range that we're going in the next 2 to 3 years. We're gonna start having to look at drafting in prime time, big time tight end. Dixon's good. Brandon Williams, like you said, my man here on a couple minutes just a second ago, just that. Williams is raw talent. He's going to be a good tight end, but he's never going to be a starter. And Ed Dixon, he's injury prone. So we're going to need to draft somebody over the next few years who's really high up in the first round or something like that. And when we get to that point, when Greg Olsen is going to be retiring or be released because of cap salary cuts and stuff like that in the next few years, we're going to need somebody who can go out there and catch for Cam.
Which I see from Aaron's mock draft thing. I think he had us getting a tight end late. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's a position that has become more and more important in the NFL. So what we have is, you're seeing guys like Jimmy Graham, Gronkowski, Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis was kind of that first. I would say one of the earlier guys to be like that.
Yeah, I put him along the lines of that Tony. I say Tony Gonzalez. Yeah.
So it is an important position, but I think this is what you get with Brandon Williams and both Ed Dixon. Ed Dixon is really just not that good, and Brandon Williams has a lot of supposed talent, but he has had trouble picking up the game. He didn't play a lot in college, and it's obviously there's something. He's not just standing out enough to get start, but there is a question about that is do you like to start talent that is like veteran talent, and we've seen them be remarkably stubborn in moving guys around, particularly Roman Harper, Deku, Kason, another example. And look at what happens when you did this. You put Trey Boston, I thought, played very well against the New Orleans Saints.
I mean, as far as that, Trey Boston was beat up all. I mean, he wasn't there training camp.
No, he had a sports hernia surgery, but he played. He wasn't even that good in college, but he played, I thought, very well against Saints.
Well, I liked him in college until this last year when they switched him. He went from free safety to strong safety, and to me, he's a little bit too small for that. So I think that was his
dreads are overwhelming. How do you feel about that? Are his dreads too much?
As long as he never gets tackled on an interception return by him, I'm straight.
I mean, how can you walk around with that many dreads? That's got to be like an extra 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah, like I said. Well, maybe if he gets caught from behind, you can be mad at him too.
It's just hard. I mean, it's just like he looks like, dang, it's just overwhelming. That's what I would describe it as.
Now, does anybody know that the guy who I heard mention, I was hearing the radio, on the game on the radio the other day because I was so busy, but who was that other guy on the secondary that they were mentioning so much in the safety position?
Ben Wookery?
He's a rookie, I believe.
He plays the nickel corner.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned a lot during this week's game. He was making plays. He made an interception, I believe.
Yeah, Benet. Big play Benet. That's
Sticky
my.
Wicky.
I like big play Benet, but I was a major. I was excited when we traded up to get him. We traded to get him in the 6th round, I think, or 7th round, whatever it was. I was
fifth, fourth. No, we traded up for Trey Boston. That's who we traded up for.
we traded up to get Benet.
But I know for a fact that guy who got the interception, whatever his name, I'm still going to learn it. But he's going to be a future cornerback in this team. He might not be starting, but in between him, Bean, and Norman, that could be our secondary for the next 5 to 10 years if everything goes according. The defense coordinator and stuff. If we don't keep switching guys out and defense coordinators over the next 5 years trying to find the right one to get this defense keep going. If Ron should get fired and his staff gets fired after this year, depending on how we win the next 3 games.
Yeah, but Benet has a mental aspect of the game. He has a crazy vertical. His vertical is like 39 inches, 40 inches. And he fits our defense, which I said when we drafted him. He fits that zone corner perfectly. Now, man, he can be beat at times because he doesn't have the elite speed. But I loved him when we drafted him. I was excited when we drafted him. That's my dude. Like, I feel like he's one of my favorite people on the team. With a cool nickname already adds to it, Ben Wilkery.
We call him Sticky Wicky. All right, what do you think we got going forward that we can gain off of Sunday to gain some momentum to jump into next week against Tampa Bay? So you're going to face a struggling team. How, as the Carolina Panthers, do you keep that momentum up?
Continue with Jonathan Stewart, especially with Gerald McCoy and Levante David maybe being out. I feel like definitely run the ball down their throats. And make sure Cam has that balance of being a pocket passer per se and the option plays. Even though I still prefer for him to run as a scrambler and not as a design run play, besides maybe on third down. But the whole key to it is we have to run the option off of our run game instead of most of the time we run the option as our run game. And when I say that, I mean Jonathan Stewart he had 155 yards Sunday. So he's killing him, he's running the ball. Now you fake it to him, let Cam go the other way, and he's going to get yards. Instead of we averaging 2 yards a carry, 3 yards a carry, we can't run the ball at all. So now when you fake it, they not caring about Jonathan Stewart at all like that, and they're concentrating on Cam. So, like I said, I like our option being off of our run game and not being our run game.
You know, speaking about Cam, you know, I saw an article today from the Charlotte Observer saying that Cam Newton has not yet proven he's a $100,000 quarterback. To that, I say we don't know how good Cam Newton is, because I'm going to say it like this. The kid is like, what, 23? I believe he's 23. 25. He's nowhere near hit his ceiling. And by no means do I believe that the Carolina Panthers have really put Cam Newton in a position to really be successful. You know, I don't feel like he's been put in the greatest situation, but yet a lot of people like to compare Cam Newton to the other young quarterbacks, to Russell Wilson, to Colin Kaepernick, you know, all these other guys. You can compare quarterbacks all day, but nobody wants to compare Cam Newton's team to Andrew Luck's team. You know, they don't want to compare teams because it's easier to talk about one person than it is to talk about teams. All these other quarterbacks everybody compares Newton to really came into a better situation than Newton came into. I feel like if the Panthers commit to our offense, if we go back to rebuilding our offensive line, you know, getting that run game going the way we used to, because at one time the Carolina Panthers really did have one of the premier offensive lines in the league. And 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard rushers, you know, first in the NFL history to do that. If we can get back to that, if we can build that, control the tempo of the game, I would have no problem with Mike Shula. If we really have the team and the talent where we can actually control the tempo of a game, Mike Shula all day, because he's able to do that. What Mike Shula can't do is he can't come back from behind, and that's because really the Carolina Panthers have not been built in a position to be able to be that comeback from behind team.
I had to disagree with Shula. He's got to go, man. Shula has had too much trouble with his team in the past couple seasons. He in his past with Tampa Bay, if he was I think he was a coordinator with the Tampa Bay years ago, and he was bad then. He's bad now. He needs to go. Even with Keith Ron, they need to go after a much better coordinator that can call better plays, that can do it. Whether it's North Turner, whether it's Roman from San Francisco 49ers or whatever. We need somebody who's going to call better plays instead of just running three running plays up the middle with Tolbert or something like that. And Shula's got to.
Right. Well, I think we'd be remiss though if we didn't remember, the 8-10-yard drives that we would have last season, and I could potentially have again. You're able to.
That kind of killed us though. Not having that ability.
When you're able, I feel like when you're able to go, and maybe I'm conservative too, because I will agree that Shula is very, very conservative when it comes to being an offensive coordinator. But I feel like if you have an offense that can really kind of just dominate and just control the tempo of the game, I feel like it kind of demoralizes the other team a little bit when they see, an offense just go 10 minutes on their defense and actually score. But I do think that that needs to be. I think that a lot of the plays that we're seeing, really, they're the same plays that we've been seeing the last couple years. And I think that
I want to jump in on this. So, original question was Cam Newton worth $100 million going forward, right? And have we put enough around him to know yet? So this is a lot of people disagree with this very hard. In fact, a guy I just wrote on CarolinaCatChronicles.com, he wrote Cam Newton is not. Don't be fooled. Cam Newton is not a franchise quarterback. He cited his lack of development in mechanics. His tendency to run.
Article. Just stop it right there. Before.
It was terrible. It was terrible. All right, but no, it wasn't terrible. It was actually good. I like that somebody was bold enough to take the opinion moving forward. But we haven't put anything around him really. Number one, and number two, there's not a better option moving forward. You have to pay Cam Newton the money. There's no serious real option out there in the NFL that's really a better one than a guy that's already on a team that's not going to be going nowhere. You're just going to be starting over with the same gamble. And what you have seen here is you've seen Cam Newton. You see what he can do, and he's been successful.
And he's the things that Cam Newton has done for us over the last 4 years with the kind of talent. And I love my Carolina Panthers, but I'm a realist, and I look at the talent that Cam really has around him, and it is significantly less than what Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, and Andrew Luck have around them. So I don't feel it's fair to really judge Cam Newton right now because I don't think we know how good Cam Newton is. The things that he's done with the talent that he has been phenomenal. The guy is outstanding. And I really believe that if we commit to that quarterback and we build a team around him, there's no telling how good he can be.
He can definitely be that guy. He is. We've seen what he can do when he gets time in the pocket. And that's the thing is he is contrary to this myth that the media has fabricated about Cam Newton is that he is an accurate passer when he has time.
Let's not forget he had a different receiver leading almost every week last season. That doesn't. And with being the number one time of possession, you simply cannot do that if you have a bad quarterback. That doesn't happen. You can't be first in time of possession if you have a bad offense and you have a bad quarterback.
But Mike Shula is not the answer. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that, is that if we saw the game, he needed to call every week, and we saw it this past Sunday. We don't have any speed, and Cam Newton has been hurt, so he's had to call a regular game. But I don't think he's advanced enough for Cam Newton, what he can do. I think Mike Shula is like putting me in a NASCAR car and asking me to win a race. Is that you might have the best car on earth, but I'm not going to be able to win that race.
All right. Here's my thoughts on it. First of all, I hate that you brought up Monty's article. One, because I gave Monty an opportunity to come on this podcast more than once. And his exact words was, I will not come on your podcast until whenever Cam Newton is benched.
Oh, God. Well, then he ain't ever coming on this podcast.
2.
What reason will we bench Newton? I
know, that's dumb.
He's a front runner. Second of all, Monty is a Carolina Panthers fan who lives in Indianapolis, brings up Luck every day on Twitter, and was just at the Colts game like last week.
See, that's like I just said, T-Money, like everybody wants to compare Cam to Andrew Luck. Why don't we compare the Carolina Panthers to the Indianapolis Colts? Nobody wants to do that. And you would be,
and he doesn't. Every day
if you did not admit that Andrew Luck came into a better situation than Cam Newton did. Cam Newton is doing the best he can in a bad situation.
And to me, I don't care. I don't really care about Andrew Luck because he had a chance to come here if he wanted to. What did he do? Decide to stay at school.
He chose to go to college. Right.
But yeah, so I hate that you brought up that article because, like I said, me and him go at it every day on Twitter. And so eventually I was like, yo, just come on the podcast and I can slap you around and then you can go about your way. But he won't do it. Even Sunday, we went 41-10. He's still not happy because he brings up, oh, Luck came back and he beat the Browns, and that's what you have to do as a quarterback. You have to be able to, even when situations is bad, win the game. I said Luck almost lost in the game. Luck had, 2-3 turnovers before halftime. But anyway, other than that,
you're up 21 points with the Saints, and you see Cam on the sideline with the towel on his head. Up 21 points. You know, a lot of people like to bring all this stuff up. I will say that I don't believe that it was a good idea to cut ties with a lot of guys that we had and say that we're ready to turn the locker room over to Kuechly and Cam. I'm a big fan of Kuechly. I'm wearing the salute service. I'm a big fan of Kuechly. I think Kuechly is one of the best, if not the best, middle linebackers in the league. What I don't think that either Cam or Kuechly are really ready to just go ahead and take over leadership of the team. I don't think they're at that point.
I think Cam is. Now Luke, I think still. Luke will never really be that to me because Luke isn't a loud enough talker to me. Luke is comfortable with Thomas being the vocal leader, you know, getting the team fired up. Luke is more a lead by example kind of guy to me, and I think he will always be that because Luke is the most humble player in the league, if we can all say that. I mean, it took him how many? Last I heard, he still hadn't pulled out the MVP trophy like that.
He's been mouthy though this season. He's been. You see him yapping with people occasionally. Extra shoves after the play from that one game.
But that's on the field. I'm talking about off the field. Luke is not.
He's picture perfect off the field, dude.
Yeah, he's not the one. I don't think we're ever gonna hear about Luke doing an interview and he done took a shot at such and such, or you know what I'm saying. I don't think we ever have to worry about that with Luke. Now on the field, does he act a little bit different? That's what we all want. You want that player who can turn it on when they're on the field, but when they're off the field, they're not getting in trouble. We won't have to worry about Luke getting DUIs or doing this or doing that. So,
yeah. Well, Luke Kuechly is more the opposite of Cam Newton. Cam Newton, Superman. Luke Kuechly is Clark Kent. That's the way some people want to put it. I've seen
Cam wants to be in the camera, yes, but I don't feel like we'll ever have behavioral issues with Cam either.
But as far as my opinion with Cam, is he a $100 million quarterback? To answer your question, I believe so. Because like you said, they've not put enough around him yet to win. They're about two tackle, left tackle and a right tackle from giving him a solid O-line. They need to go in the draft this offseason. Get rid of Chandler. Get rid of Bell.
We can get rid of Chandler. We gave him an extension.
Okay, well, we can get rid of Bell and throw him out the door, put Chandler back in the rotation as a backup, and bring in and draft two tackles right and left in the draft so we can get that protection of Cam's blind side and his other side to give him the time to throw that ball. Because we have seen Well, Cam has had the time. He can throw them spirals and like darts, man. He can get to the guys. He when they're up and he overthrows sometimes. He's still got to learn not to throw off that back foot of his all the time. He has trouble. He's got to have somebody come in here, another quarterback coach, because Ken Dorsey, who in the world thought of bringing in a guy who's never really had a good NFL career? Everybody's a quarterback that comes out of college. He wasn't never a good quarterback in NFL. Why would they choose to bring Ken Dorsey in to be his quarterback coach? I would never understand that.
Well, that old saying that those who can't teach.
Well, my thing on that is, if I'm not mistaken, that Dorsey was at that Chris Winkie quarterback, whatever that is, that Cam worked with coming out of college, I think.
And I don't agree why he went to that thing neither, because Winkie was okay, but he was never a good quarterback either. But
Cam looked like a pretty good pocket passer. He looked better, more comfortable.
Yeah, he did. But the thing is, because he's on the move so much, because he's always getting run down, because he had all the line protect him. Now, if he got that protection what he needs, he probably would not move out of that pocket very much as he does right now. But he's running for his life every Sunday for almost the last couple months now, and he keeps getting hit time after time. He has the first in line on the chart of being hit the most times in the last 3 years, 2 years. He had twice as many as any other quarterback in the NFL being hit every time around. About 400 or something was mentioned.
More than 500 times, brother.
I thought it was like 400 or something. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's more than 500 times. It's an insane amount of number. It's like it's about the same as tackles that Luke Kuechly had in college.
And
the number is
something you can take into account too. I mean, Cam Newton, 6'5", 248 pounds. This kid has taken hits that would end seasons for many quarterbacks, possibly even careers.
And he ain't going
up. And he plays behind that O-line. So I think
that's
really unfair to judge.
People talk about Cam's mechanics and this, that, and the other. Is it really Cam naturally throws off his back foot, or is it because he's so used to getting pressure that he can't step up?
I truly believe this.
Another thing, like a lot of those overthrows, they're not balls that are unplayable. A lot of the receivers could probably cut inside, or dive, or jump up, tack the football. Fact is, we just don't have receivers that can do that. Steve Smith could possibly have caught many of those. But when you look at it, and you see a quarterback running stride for stride with the receiver, if Cam doesn't throw it over a little bit, it's just going to get batted down or intercepted anyway. So I don't really fault him on those really close overthrows. I think he's given the receiver a chance to make a play on the ball.
All right. I think that all of these points are excellent. I think that what Alan said about Ken Dorsey and the quarterback coach.
Oh, we know you want old boy. What's his name? Steve Logan. I should know by now.
Yes, you should know by now. But the point is that first you have Cam Newton, who has not played behind an offensive line, that has taken the most hits in the NFL as a quarterback in the last 3 years. It's by a long shot. It's by like 250 more hits than any other quarterback. And then what you're doing is that he came out of college. He only played 1 year in college, and it wasn't in like a pro system style. It was, we have Cam Newton, and Cam Newton is the best guy on the field, and we can win like that. The year before, he played for a junior college and they won the national championship. Nobody's really had to refine him to this point. But what we need now is a guy that knows enough about football, enough about the quarterback position, that can finely tune Cam Newton and train some of these kind of athletic flaws out of him. And what he does is his mechanics break down when he's under pressure, and he's able to get away with being the most gifted athlete on the field. And you saw this on the Philly Brown pass to the sideline. That was a perfect pass, and he threw it off his back foot. But he does that stuff when he gets in a rush. And so you need a guy that can work with him and improve him. And Ken Dorsey is not the guy, and you're not going to do it behind an offensive line that couldn't stop me.
And
I think it would be really important to make sure.
Who did I tell you that I compare Cam to?
Was that?
I don't know.
I say
Dante Culpepper.
Nah, Cam is a LeBron of the NFL.
Okay, yeah, and look at how long it's taken him to become. And here's the other thing: is they always compare Cam to dudes that are like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, that
guys
have
been in the league for 15 years. Yeah,
exactly, and who all sat behind somebody that was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, if you think about it, Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre. That's I mean, it's not easy shoes to fill, but it's a good guy to watch. That was a quarterback coach right there.
How long?
For like 3 years.
Only one who really came in and from day one had to do the whole thing is Peyton.
Yep.
Brady sat behind who? Bledsoe.
Yep.
Who at that time Bledsoe was a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, Bledsoe was good.
So like out of all the elite ones, I mean, Breeze didn't sit behind anybody though, but Rivers sat behind Breeze. So
let me make with this one more point about Cam Newton, and people have to remember this because everybody for a couple weeks now been wanting to bench Cam and all this, but people got to remember that Cam didn't have no surgery onto his ankle until May. Didn't have no off season. Didn't have no training camp. He threw around the ball some with the guys during training camp, but never really fully ran. And he's been hurt off season. Had fractured ribs and no O line to protect him. And he's been taking every hit for God knows every angle at him all season. Being knocked down, he keeps coming back. And everybody's saying bench him because he's having a poor game here or there. You know, and he's not worth $100 million. People need to get real because the man's been hurt. The man's been suffering all season. The man deserves that contract. He's good. They give him the O-line he deserves and gives him another speed receiver. Put Philly Brown in there as Philly Brown continues to learn the system and Ricky Prohl helps him out and teaches him how to be a better receiver and put Calvin Benjamin in the slot and run him some slant routes and stuff with that big body of his. I guarantee you Cam's going to become one of the most dangerous guys in the league for the next 5 to 7 years. He will be dangerous.
Let's say this. I mean, everybody remembers the little pause that Gettleman gave, you know, in his press conference when he asked if Cam Newton was a franchise quarterback. I'm sure everybody remembers that. Let's just say hypothetically speaking.
Gettleman first year, right?
Yeah. Let's just say hypothetically speaking that Cam Newton is not given the contract in Carolina. What happens? Where does he go? Do we get anything for him? Or is he just a free agent? What would happen in that circumstance?
No, honestly, we run. If Cam Newton is not signed between now and the end of his next 2 years before we are not being able to franchise him in time, people are going to run David Gennum out of town because you can let Cam go. But honestly, how many good quarterbacks? How often is a team lucky to grab a talented quarterback like Cam Newton out of the draft? You see all these quarterbacks. You see all these teams the last few years draft quarterbacks like Jacksonville and other teams, and they try every quarterback from here to Montezuma, and they still don't work out. Okay, there very rarely does a good talent quarterback come out of the NFL every 4 or 5 years, and you know we get rid of Cam, we may be searching for a decent, good quarterback that can run this team for the next 3 or 4 years, or longer. And we may end up being worse than we are now. So people better be lucky we got Cam, and we better sign the guy while we have a chance to long term.
Yeah, that was Monty's whole argument: is are we gonna sign Cam just because that's what the fans want? But my whole thing is that's just what the market is for starting good. Well, not even always good starting quarterbacks right now. I mean. Would you rather give Cam $100 million, or would you rather give Andy Dalton $100 million? Would you rather give Cam $100 million, or would you rather give
any money? But what if you did? What if you traded him what if he had a good season next year, and then you traded him for to Dallas for what they did back in the day for who was it?
Herschel Walker.
Yeah, like you could do that, but I think they would burn down Bank of America's stadium. I think we would all burn down Bank of America, and only if you do that.
What quarterback in the foreseeable future do you feel like we can get that would be better than Cam's, even if you're going to trade him for draft picks? What quarterback?
I really honestly don't see it. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand the mentality of the Carolina Panther fans. Sometimes, you know, I do the trash talk in the circle, but I have the fan page and everything that I run, and I've actually said this myself. Like, if I ever left the Carolina Panthers, it wouldn't be because of the loss column. It would be because of the fans. Because the fans in the Carolina Panthers are probably some of the worst fans that I've ever seen. Just some of the things that they say that make absolutely no sense.
That's not the real fans. That's the fans that's here when we're winning, gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the fan base. But, I mean, some people, they really are fans of the Panthers. And, you know, they're from North Carolina. They're from the Carolinas, I should say. They're homers, but they have no concept of football whatsoever or how the inner workings of the football, just like, you know, all the cut D'Angelo Williams and cut Jonathan Stewart comments. How in the hell could you possibly cut either one of those two? Because really, both of those running backs have the Panther organization by the balls when it comes to a contract. You know, a lot of the stuff just makes sense, especially with like all the negativity with Cam Newton, who is really the best quarterback we've had since Jake Delhomme. You know, I mean, I don't know how people could possibly get
the best quarterback. He's the best quarterback the Carolina Panthers have had. Will he be? I mean, but the thing is that with the fan base, I think we just got to take into mind that the other girl is always prettier. The other, you know, I mean, that's just the nature of being involved in sports. And when you follow it, people panic. I'm a panicker. I go crazy sometimes. But at the same time, the people that like call for Derek Anderson and no Cam Newton, what they really don't know is what they have. And you have something very special. And if we wanted to write, I say this every week, I feel like when we talk about this, is that if we wanted to write a list about the Carolina Panthers, about what was wrong with it, I'm not putting Cam Newton on the list.
Right. I think, you know, really when it comes to Cam Newton, nobody wants to win more than Cam Newton does. Cam Newton is used to being a winner. He puts forth every ounce of effort that he has in order to put the team in a position to win. You know, so I don't really understand the mentality of, you know, sitting him in favor of Derek Anderson, because let's face it, Derek Anderson has had his shot in the National Football League.
He sucks. He sucks. Let's just go ahead and say it.
That was the worst thing for that argument this year was Derek Anderson beating Tampa, honestly. Not realizing, people don't realize Tampa's a what, 2-and what are they?
And he fumbled the ball and threw that funny pick at the end, so it's not like he was just burning it up. He sucks, man. He just sucks.
I really think.
But people got excited. People got excited over him beating Tampa. They got excited over remember the touchdown we had in the preseason where Kelvin falls and he gets up and he catches it. People got excited over that too.
Julio just missed a touchdown.
I'll admit, you know, Derek Anderson's fun to watch in the preseason when, you know, you see him run for 5 yards in the first down, shit like that. I mean, it's fun. You know, it's enjoyable. And as a secondary quarterback, you know, as a backup quarterback, I say Derek Anderson's actually a pretty decent backup quarterback. Let's not forget that he was at one time a Pro Bowl. You know, he's been a starting quarterback. You know, he's got experience. But he's not. So the thing with Cam is that he wants to be a winner. And if we were to just sit Cam out and just kick him out of the game, put him on the bench, imagine what we would possibly do to that young man. You know, what kind of message will we be sending to Cam Newton? Just like if we go forward and we don't sign this man and we just give him a franchise tag, could we possibly damage our relationship with Cam Newton? Could we damage his career?
I truly believe that there's going to be some in the works either this offseason or beginning of before the timeline of signing people in the next few weeks after season start next year. But I think somewhere in that timeline they're going to finally give Cam the contract he deserves by sometime mid next season for that timeline. I think for a few weeks into the season they can sign him, then they can't sign him after a certain period of time date or something like that. But I believe then or they will get him sometime that next offseason before they decide to franchise tag him. I don't think they're going to let him go that long and risk him going on free agency that year after he's done with his franchise tag. I don't think they're going to let a quarterback like that just leave this team that easy.
T-Money, I got
for all the talk about.
Oh, T-Money, I think I got a question for you. Looking at the secondary, because actually, with the fan site that I run, I actually talked to a couple of family members with the actual players, and there's actually one player in the secondary that's not feeling too happy right now. And I want to get your opinion on this young man, and that's going to be number 23, Melvin White. What do you feel about Melvin White? Where do you see him in the future?
Excuse my language, but Melvin White is a bitch in coverage. He takes no chances. He backs all too far. He's a good tackler. I like it. I mean, he can tackle. That's about it. He's somebody that he's a true to the T zone corner in strictly zone. He's somebody who he won't get beat. Well, he does get beat deep sometimes. I try to give him some credit. For the most part, his style of playing is I'll give you short pass after short pass after short pass, but I'm not gonna get beat deep. But if you're gonna do that, you can't get beat deep either. But even if you watch him in the game on Sunday, what do? He comes in the game, they start attacking Melvin White. Bam, bam, bam. Now it looks like, oh, he has 5 tackles. He must be playing good. No, he gave up 5 catches that was getting yards. They started attacking him. But, I mean, I like his attitude, but I wouldn't want him as a starter. Not as a nickel, neither. If he was like a 4th corner, maybe.
Yeah. Cat Chronicles, how you feel about Josh Norman?
Josh Norman is, I mean, this is what we got. We got 2 guys with Melvin White. The same story goes is that Melvin White was asked to do too much in this defense from day one. They trotted him out there last year as a number 2 corner. Is he? I don't think he's a liability to our defense, but I don't know how good he can be. I mean, or how, like, I think he can be all right on a team and contribute. But Josh Norman, he's got attitude. He is starting to get the attitude is starting to turn into confidence, I think, which is a little different, is that before he was just trying to blow a dude up and get excited and hyped up. But now you're starting to see him, like, be more vocal in the defense. He's starting to, trying to turn into something that a guy that wants to take the challenges of playing the number 1 guys. And I think that's what you need at a cornerback is you need a guy that is got enough chip on his shoulder, enough confidence in himself to be a little stupid at some time. So, I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, to think that you can go up against Julio Jones one-on-one, that is a little stupid of people to really think that, but you need that as a corner to be locked down. I still think you need a better guy.
He actually did a damn good job on Julio.
Yeah, he did. But you have to have that kind of I believe in myself even if it's unrealistic type mentality because you're by yourself on the island. So I think he has that, but it would really help if we were able to land a guy. We need a safety we need another big name back there. We need a guy that can take some of the pressure off of those guys, and we don't have that just yet.
In my defense of Melvin, though, I thinking about it, I do think Ron randomly picks a corner to put in the doghouse every year. This year was Melvin. This year was Melvin White. Last year was Josh Norman. And then they let Chris Gamble go the year before. But
I think when it comes to Josh Norman, what probably annoyed me the most from looking at him is you can tell that Josh Norman he tries to kind of guess the play or guess the route a lot, and I don't know.
But that's confidence, and with more playing time, more experience, you can kind of do that. How many times have we seen a Revis or Rondé when he was playing just seeming like they knew what was going to happen? with experience that comes with that. Now, he was trying to do that his rookie year as a 6th-round pick out of, where'd he go, Coastal Carolina?
Right.
Yeah.
He was trying to do that his rookie year. Yeah, you can't get away with that. This is the NFL. They're going to look you off and then hit whoever you were supposed to be on anyway. But I think with more experience, more playing time, you can kind of seem to do that. Or if you're a true student of the game, you can do those type of things. How many times have we seen Luke seeming like he knows exactly what's going to happen on the play? Being a student, if you're a true student of the game, you can kind of get away with that per se.
Speaking of linebackers, I mean, one of the best ones that we got is really getting kind of up there, and he's had a lot of injuries. You know, you look at Thomas Davis. How much longer do you think we got for Davis?
I say depending on the cap, because they're gonna be over him about, I think, what I've seen, $4 million this offseason. But also the age, I think we maybe got a couple more years, and we're going to have to start looking for a linebacker to take Thomas Davis' place in a few years, because, man, he's getting in his about 30, 31, 32 years old now, and he's going to want to retire because, you know, much longer does he want to pound that leg or before that leg snaps for a fourth time, and he's done for good then.
But I'm kind of thinking the opposite of that. I think this can be kind of one of those. I would compare it to Grant Hill in basketball. You getting hurt that many times, you're not getting that much wear and tear on your body, so that can seem to extend your career. Because he hasn't been doing a lot of hitting per se until these last couple of years, or going through the rigors of an NFL season. So I'm thinking maybe he can extend his career. But right now, I want to draft somebody to play on that other side. I do not want A.J. Klein or Chase Blackburn to be there next year. I want to draft an outside linebacker with some speed, one that we can blitz. Because right now, the only way that we can blitz besides, as far as linebackers, is a middle blitz with either Luke or Thomas Davis. How many times?
Speaking of blitzing, man, I've seen the Carolina Panthers are being a whole lot more aggressive with the blitz, and you know how I feel, T-Money. We've had a couple conversations about Greg Hardy, but, man, I'm really starting to see what you was trying to tell me. You know, we're definitely right there, man.
When Greg Hardy first got suspended and we had that good game, who was that, Detroit, when Addison went off, Kevin was like, oh, my God, bleep Greg Hardy. We don't need him. You went off on a whole little rant. I was like, Greg Hardy, we gonna miss him. And you was like, nah, forget him. I don't give a about him. You went off. but
yeah, not having him up there, man. Charles Johnson still has it. I think Charles Johnson still got a lot of gas in the tank. But not having Greg Hardy in there is definitely apparent, and that's why we're being a lot more aggressive with all these blitz packages, because we haven't had to blitz the last couple of years, really.
The difference in between both of them is, to me, CJ has to have the matchup. Like when we moved him, when Teron Armstead got hurt this last game and we put him on that side, he was dominating every play. They had to start blocking him with a tackle, a tight end, and still chip him sometimes. He has to have that matchup. With Greg, I feel like Greg Moore, no matter who you put up there, unless it's maybe an all-pro tackle, I feel like he can beat you.
Okay, let me ask this question to y'all guys, just 1 second. This is just a thought, that if Greg Hardy comes out of court, they find him not guilty of his acts of hitting that girlfriend of his and stuff like that in the offseason, do you think Panthers should take that chance if he's not asking for the serious amount he was trying to ask before he did all this in this past season? Do you think they should, for a not decent contract, ask him to come back, sign with the team for long term, so we can get that impact player back in him? Or do they just let him go and try going elsewhere for like in free agency for pass rusher?
I don't think Greg's going to give us a discount unless it's a 1-year try me deal. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's going to sign long term for a cheaper price than what he was asking for last year. I feel
with this court case changes nothing when it comes to the Kraken, man. It's not. He's got a price tag that he's already got set, and he's already made that very apparent to the Carolina Panthers. He's not going to come down, man. This court case, if he gets found not guilty, other teams in the league are going to be looking at him if he hits the free agency, and somebody's going to grab him.
I'm so honestly worried about, is he going to be in Atlanta jersey next year? Atlanta needs pass rush.
I don't think Atlanta has the money. I think both Atlanta and
Atlanta has like 50 mil next year.
Oh yeah,
something crazy. 20 mil.
Well, aren't the Saints getting ready to be in some cap hell right now? That's the way they're.
With the Jimmy Graham whole thing, yeah, they are, and they're paying Breeze so much. But yeah, I think the way we have to convince him to do it is, hey, you were out of football for a whole year. Besides what, 1 game, 2 games, 1 game.
And he only just showed back up to the stadium last week, so.
I feel like we have to convince him, hey, we're gonna give you a deal for a year. If you ball out, we're gonna sign you long term. If you need to prove it, not just to us, to the whole NFL. Mm-hmm. I think maybe him seeing how difficult right now it is for Ray Rice and probably AP's probably gonna end up getting cut because his contract isn't guaranteed.
Let me go ahead and tell you guys this: is Greg Hardy is awesome and he would be great on this team, but the only way he's gonna be a Carolina Panther ever again or wear a Carolina Panther jersey is if Jerry Richardson dies and somebody that don't give a crap about what anybody thinks becomes the owner of the team. And so you can just go ahead and think about all that Greg Hardy mess. I don't see him playing for the Carolina Panthers. It don't matter how cheap he was or how expensive he's going to be. Is that I think it's just the Carolina Panther tenure with Greg Hardy has just come to the hunt. It's over. The wedding. This is going to be a divorce from these two people, and we wish him the best of luck as long as he don't come to the NFC South, because then we're going to hate that dude even more because we paid his ass and he sucked and we let him get good on our team and then go make money with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, Cat Chronicle. I mean, one thing about Jerry Richardson that I've learned over the years is that he's a man of habit. He's definitely a man of habit. Richardson, he's not he doesn't like these off-field issues. That's one thing that's really, I mean, you look back at Ray Caruth. I mean, off-field issues don't fly in Carolina. And then another thing is going back to the fan comments, with the whole Fire Rivera thing, like if that would never, first of all, if that would never happen, Richardson would never just spend the money to cut ties with the coach to pick up another coach. Go back as far as look at, John Fox.
But Dave Gettleman might.
And told him he wasn't going to. Right. So,
that's the thing is with Rivera, I don't know if it is it's a performance issue with Rivera, while a character issue. But I do understand what you're saying is that habit and Ron Rivera and coaches. But I could see Rivera not being the coach of the Carolina Panthers next year.
I don't know.
Nah,
I mean,
I agree with Panthers Huddle. Richardson he's a creature of habit, and I mean, look how many times he let John Fox, who even took us to a Super Bowl, let him play out his contract.
We told Fox that we were not renewing his contract. He had a foot out the door and finished his tenure out in Carolina before he left. Richardson's very, very stingy with his money, man, and that's why he did, get a little bit offended when we did say that he was stingy with his money. But I mean, he's still not done anything to disprove that. I will say that Richardson has done a lot for the Carolina Panthers and their fans. I mean, first of all, everything that he did to bring football to the Carolinas. But I mean, I think the last offer he was given was more than $2 billion, more than what the Panthers are worth, and he turned it down. But that said, he's also not a sole owner of the Carolina Panthers. He also has partners, and then in the event of his death and everything like that, there's already a set number of people that are going to have an interest for the Panthers that are going to have a mutual interest to keep the Panthers in Charlotte. So that's another good thing that we're going to have. But, yeah, I think with Richardson and his habits, you brought up a great point, Chronicles. I don't know if we're going to see Hardy in a Panthers uniform again, as much as I would now like to see that, because having seen this season and seeing our front seven was spectacular. But I think it's a real testament to what we're missing out on when you see us blitzing so much, when you saw us blitz so little, the year before.
I agree. Go ahead.
But back to the day gentleman thing for a minute, in the coach firing the coach Ron Rivera. Now, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be wrong, but didn't Jerry Richardson, when they hired him, because Jerry Richardson did not do the one that did the scoping, I mean, looking at gentlemen. There was another guy who did that 2 years ago before him. He hired somebody to bring Dave Gentleman in after looking him over, and a couple other GMs around, or other couple people around the country in football team. But as far as Dave Gentleman, did he have total control over firing and hiring the coach now? Does he have a say in that, or is Jerry Richardson still much in control of that? That's my question.
My thing with that is now it's a little bit of a difference because Gettleman had that say so as far as before. You know, first coming in, GM normally has that say so. But now giving Rivera that extension, I don't think we're gonna let him go until his contract is up.
Nah.
But my question on
that extension is too overblown, man, because that was, you got coach of the year. You were going into your last year of your deal anyway, right? And
what, a year?
So you get a reward. I think they added 2 years if you count. So I think it was a 3-year deal, but you count 1 year that was still, I think, on his old deal. So it was a 2-year extension, I think. So, I mean, what do you do for a guy that gets coach of the year? That's kind of what you do going forward. But he hasn't been, I mean, it's not like he's been great. And then the other thing is things have changed a lot since Marty Herney was around, because you got to remember that Jerry Richardson had that heart surgery since. Like, he's got like a heart transplant or something, might as well. I think he does. I think he had a heart transplant or something crazy like that, or some sort of big heart surgery. And I think he stepped back some. And I think you see that with the Steve Smith thing, is that him and Steve Smith were tight. You know, I mean, they seem to have a good relationship. So maybe this isn't the Carolina Panthers of old. We've seen things done a little bit tougher.
So then the question comes with Gettleman re-sign Hardy.
No.
I think the question is going to be how much power and how much pull does Dave Gettleman have anymore? I mean, let's not forget, he basically dismantled a 12-4 team. I mean, he completely dismantled it. You know, how much power, how much faith do you think Jerry Richardson really is going to have?
Yeah, I still debate it.
Let's not forget that Steve Smith and Jerry Richardson are close friends. And one of the interviews I heard from Steve Smith was that Steve Smith actually had a dinner with Jerry Richardson after his cut and was basically told that someone in that organization, that he had been there and will continue to be there longer than those two people that are in there now. And that's probably assuming that he's talking about both Rivera and Dave Gettleman. At least that's the way I read it.
Well, all I can say is he's going to be cut, and then depending on his games, the next 3 games, and see if the Carolina Panthers get blown out these next 3 games, and next 2 or 3 or whatever. If he's going to get fired, I believe it would be at least by the first week of after the season's over for us. If we don't make the playoffs, he'll be fired. But if he's not fired within that first week after the off season starts for us, then we pretty much know he's going to be staying around for long haul. That's all.
I think if we win division and make playoffs, I think there's no chance at all that we let Rivera go. Not because our record is so impressive, because it won't be, but I think that whole him being the first coach to lead us to back-to-back NFC South titles, I think will automatically keep him his job.
Right, you know that I'll admit that I was guilty of being one of the people that didn't really believe in Rivera, you know, first coming in. But one thing that I noticed is that the Carolina Panthers play for that coach. You know, years ago when we had nothing to play for, really, because we'd since been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, we went on to win, 5 of our last 6 games. You know, the team came together and they showed heart and dedication towards that coach. And I think really that's something that you really got to kind of read into. Right now the players seem like they're actually comfortable with Rivera and they believe in Rivera. So I think, you know, cutting ties with Rivera would be a huge mistake and would potentially affect the locker room as well. But I do think one thing that I've kind of noticed with Rivera is he tries a lot of people in the season. You know, tries to get a lot of people out there on the field. Now I could be wrong about this, but I believe that's what the off season is for. You know, I thought that was what training camp was for. You know, why are we doing all these rotations, changing things out, changing folks out when the games are live? You know, that's
no. See, I'm
almost like we're
of that.
sacrificing
Why
one
not?
season to evaluate players.
I'm thinking the opposite though. Why have we taken so long? Why did it take however many weeks it's been to take Kaysen out when he's been playing horrible all year? Why does it take us so long to make these kind of moves?
And I can agree with you on that too. I mean, because Ron Rivera is a player's coach. You know, he's been on the field.
And that goes back to Rivera. His one thing is sometimes he can be too loyal to veterans.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, he is not. He's never gonna. You know what you have in Ron Rivera. Just go ahead. We've seen Ron Rivera. We've seen the most you could get out of him, which was last season, and we've seen the worst you could get out of him. And remember this is that his teams have performed when everybody's back has been totally against the wall. We're not talking a little bit against the wall, like when it's out of range almost. I mean, think about this. This is 5 games too late. It's
right.
Just that simple, is that we could have been better and we could have played a little bit. So it's not like, I think you know what you're going to get with Ron Rivera. I think you're getting a defensive coach. I think you're getting a guy that is not risky by nature, and so when he tries to be, it's clear he's trying more than being just honest.
But that goes back to him being a defensive coach. All the defensive coaches in the league are pretty much those conservative, we're trusting in the defense kind of guys.
But think about that, is that translates into it translates though how you bring up personnel. It translates when you make decisions in the season. So like we don't make these adjustments very good throughout the season. At least we haven't this season. You can go ahead and say that. So we haven't made any good adjustments. Now you could argue that there's nobody to go to, which that could be very well. But I don't know if he's solid, but he's not going to be great.
I think for Ron to be as truly successful as he is, you have to bring in a great offensive coordinator. You can't have an average or below average offensive coordinator with Ron Rivera.
With any defensive,
he's just John Fox Redux, man. That's what he is. He is John Fox over again.
This is the way I see it. You know, like T-Money said, a defensive-minded head coach is going to be naturally conservative. So I mean, if you have a conservative offensive coordinator, that's just bad right there. That's not going to work in your favor in a lot of cases, especially if you get in a situation where you're going to have to come from behind. You know, if that defensive-minded coach and then you fall into a rut, you go into a hole, and you have to dig your way out with an offense. That's not good, man. That's not good.
Tua was fired to me when he said, "I've never ran the no huddle before, and I don't know how to run it." And that the only plays we run out of no huddle is pretty much cam plays. I think he was fired as soon as he said that.
And he's not going to make it out this year. And you got here. How about this? I think the better question about when we ask about Ron Rivera is not is he going to be fired this season or not. Say he comes back next season and he doesn't do well again, and what will it take for you to invest again in Ron Rivera? And seriously think about this, is what type of season will next year have to be to where you're going to go past Ron Rivera, and you need to go ahead and see if you have the tools to even accomplish that. Because you know this, is say you field another team that has marginal talent on it, that has some improvements, and you go 9-7, 8-8. Is that enough to keep Ron Rivera around for 2 more years and to see if Cam Newton, if we can put some weapons around him? At what point is it just you go ahead and just say we need to go ahead and do something faster sooner than later?
It definitely can't be 7-9 for one. Because that would be
like we have to have a better. Oh, go ahead. My fault.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say it definitely has to be better than 7-9. You know, we can't have an 8th 7-9 season, especially if we're going to be keeping Rivera around. It's definitely going to have to be a return to the playoffs. In my opinion, well, assuming of course that we do well in the off season, then we don't have another off season like this one, which I haven't looked at the numbers, but I believe that we're still going to be in some pretty. We're not going to have any pockets, when it comes to the free agency this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the free agency and the money thing we will be in a much better situation, I think, after the 2015 season with Stewart being able to be cut and D. Will can be cut this offseason. Save a little money. I'm not sure, but I ain't seen it. But as far as keeping Ron Rivera around for another year, or keeping him after this year coming up, if they do decide to keep him for another year, he would have to go at least 9, 7, 10, and 6 to even keep him, because 8 seasons, that's not no good here. You're not going to make the playoffs 8-8. If we make playoffs below 500, we're lucky. It's the only time, it's a rare thing that happens to a team in the division, go below 500 and make the playoffs. That rarely happens, rarely. So he would have to be above 500 to even keep his job after next year if he does come back.
Yeah, I feel like for us to keep Ron, we have to have a better record and still be in contention of winning the South. I feel like even if we did go 9-7, but we have a team in the division go 13-3 or 12-4, he wouldn't be back. But I think we're gonna kind of wrap it up here. It's 10:58. It's kind of late, and I'm gonna watch the end of this Packers and Falcons game. Falcons just got it down to 10 points in the fourth quarter. We're going to go ahead and start off. Alan Martin, how can anybody reach you if they want to?
As I said before in the last podcast I was on, you can reach me on my Twitter at PantherBeast_OS. That's the best way to contact me or follow me. Just follow me on Twitter. That's my Twitter name, PantherBeast_OS.
All right, Kev, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Panthers Huddle. I'm a TTT Trash Talking Circle member, so I've been a little bit. I haven't done very much this season. I got bogged down in my college work. Finals are done. I'm done, so I got some more free time. Classes are going to be really easy next semester, so I'll be back on my YouTube channel. You can check me out, Panthers Huddle, on YouTube.
All right, man. You better be back because you've been missing. A lot of people. You need everybody to hold it down, man.
Yeah, man.
Tony, go ahead.
All right, this is Tony Dunn, a.k.a. the Professor from Carolina Cat Chronicles. You can hit us up there for all the hottest Panther fan talk. Check us out Tuesday nights for the C3 podcast. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz. And, go Panthers, man. Except for Julio Jones. We better go ahead and draft a corner. Julio Jones got like 200 and down, 20 yards and 2 touchdowns or something mess like that. So, let's go Green Bay Packers for tonight.
Right.
All right, and last but not least, your boy MrTMoney1993, a.k.a. Straight Fast, because that's all I speak on YouTube. A lot of people, especially them boys in the TTC, hate on that name, but I'm going to keep repping it. As far as Twitter, you can reach me TMuhammad23. YouTube, MrTMoney1993. Other than that, everybody know I'm always ready to talk football, especially about my Panthers each and every day. Other than that, that's about it, man. I'm out. About to watch the end of this game. And yeah, that's a show. Let's get out of here.